Oi gente, como vai? Bem-vindo a uma nova parte de como jogar Greninja em Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Según mi budiem govorito Jabloki, потому что это super важная tópica de la Greninja. Yo sé lo que estás pensando. Apollotion, ¿por qué estás hablando en 3 idiomas diferentes? Estás pasando ya subtitles, wey. So if you don't speak English, there's a pretty good chance that I got subtitles covered for you. But if you do speak English, don't worry about it. The rest of this video is going to be in English, so you don't have to worry about me speaking Chinese all of a sudden. But yeah, check out the subtitles and let's get to it. Alright, I'm back in the recording studio. Let me give you some tips about using up air. Starting off with how the game actually intended for us to use it. In part 2, we talked about how Greninja loves to get some juggles going. If your opponent's up in the air, you use up air. How convenient is that, dude? But unlike Greninja's tongue, his feet are not disjointed, so all of those sword aerials will beat you out. So if your opponent's landing with an aerial, remember from part 2, you want to go for an up tilt or a pivot grab. No, not again! If you ever land this move, you'll notice that's pretty weak and hard to kill with. So instead of looking like post-patch Smash 4 Diddy, you can jump into your opponents as you hit them with a multi-hit and carry them into the top blast zone. Against smaller characters, there is a chance that they'll fall out because Greninja's a great character, and against bigger characters, it's not as likely to happen. If you're playing on a stage with platforms, up air can combo into itself really well. And one last thing about up air before we get into the really cool stuff, Greninja's up air hitbox is actually super skinny. A lot of Greninja players see this and think that's a bad thing, but it's actually super useful against Snake. Snake is notorious for being able to pull out a frame 1 grenade and beat out multi-hits, but because of up air's very skinny hitbox, you can actually just drag him during the move and not even detonate the grenade. And with that said, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for! Fast fall up air! So if you just press down after like hitting an up air, you can do a fast fall up air, and yeah, I guess you can get some pretty cool stuff off of it. Alright, fast fall up air is crazy good, and I'm pretty sure that no one intended for it to be this good. So how does it work? A lot of people really get confused by the timing of fast fall up air. What you have to do is fast fall before the final hitbox of up air comes out. So that means that you have up air hits 1 through 5 to work with in order to get this fast fall. And my final tip for being able to do a fast fall up air, don't do it out of a buffered short hop. This won't work 98% of the time. So you want to short hop, wait, input the up air, and then fast fall in that order. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. But you don't always want to go for a short hop fast fall up air. You can do it out of a full hop, so get the timing down. For practicing fast fall up air from a short hop, you can spawn in different characters in training mode, set them to jump, and just practice on them. For full hop fast fall up air, you want to practice on Falco set to jump. Alright, what can we get from fast fall up air? At early percents, I got 2 words for you. No tumble. So up air won't send your opponent into tumble at early percents, meaning that you can get combos such as a fast fall up air dash attack up smash. Wait a minute, that combo starts from up air. Doesn't that sound a little bit weird? Alright, we got some setups. So we have a ton of ways to set up for a fast fall up air. Moves such as nair, dash attack, up tilt, up throw, fully charged water shuriken, and if you're good enough, down tilt. Yes, down tilt. If you manage to down tilt your opponent at medium percents near the edge of a platform or the stage, you can combo into a fast fall up air. Alright, throwback to Greninja Guide Part 1 movement. If you force a tech chase on your opponent onto a platform at medium percents, you can wave land onto that platform, react to their option, and down tilt fast fall up air. But from here, we won't be able to say those 2 words together because the opponent will be in tumble. Oh my god, they're in tumble, what can we do? So if your opponent misses the tech, you can go for a jab block. From the jab block, we have a 20 frame window that we can act. The most common options that we go for out of a jab block are a down tilt, dash attack, or F smash depending on the scenario. Alright, let's say we got a fast fall up air on our opponent and they did tech. What can we do? Greninja is crazy good at tech chases. If you run into another person in Ultimate, you won't go right through them and you'll push them instead. Hey, let's abuse this. If we dash forward and go for a down tilt, we can cover options such as tech, no tech, and tech away. From here, you can get our famous it doesn't matter combo. The only option that won't be covered by this is a tech in, but you can just turn around and down tilt in that direction if you're predicting it. Let's say you think your opponent's going to miss the tech, but you're not quite sure. What can we do? Instead of going for a dash forward down tilt, you can go for a dash forward jab. This will cover those same 3 options and give you a jab lock if they miss that tech. Against certain characters that don't hit the ground very fast or have a long teching animation, you can go for a jab after the fast stall up air. If they miss the tech, you can get a jab lock. But if they do hit that tech, you have enough time to react and go for another dash attack to reset the situation. And remember from part 2, if you force a tech in the corner, down smash can cover all of their options. Great! Let's go back to stuff using specifically fast stall up air. If you manage to connect a fast stall up air against an opponent that's off stage, you can combo it into a back air. From here, they might miss that tech and get stage spike. Put up a lotion, I don't want to get a stage spike. Alright, fine, how about this? We know that dash attack fast stall up air down tilt F smash is a kill confirm, but if you don't have the space to go for the down tilt afterwards, here's what you can do. Instead of doing a regular fast stall up air, do a raw fast stall up air. From here, you can true combo into that back air and send your opponent off stage towards the blast zone. In part 2, I talked about how tricky up tilt fast stall up air combos are, so let's get into it. Against floatier characters, you can get what I call a Grinfinite. So you can actually combo from a fast stall up air into another up tilt and reset that loop over and over. The timing is a little strict, but remember, you don't want to buffer that fast stall up air. Hey, check out this chart by Nate Dogg. This tells you the characters that you can get a down tilt after a fast stall up air against.
Why would I want to go for a down tilt when I could just do a Grinfinite?
Well, you're not going to want to Grinfinite your opponent up to 400%, right? Throw it back to this chart. If you see the down tilt up smash window come up, you can just do it right out of the Grinfinite. If you see your opponent just chilling on a platform, you can force a tech chase with fast stall up air and get an up smash. Something else that you can use fast stall up air for is getting off the ledge. No, not like that. Wait, what the hell? If you notice that your opponent's standing really close to the ledge, go for this. From the ledge, fast stall, double jump up air into them, and with the right timing, fast stall again. If you did it right, you should force a tech chase from the ledge, which can get you a stock or at least some damage. Another tip for landing fast stall up air is when in doubt, whip it out. Full disclaimer, do not do this in your local Walmart. I do not condone that kind of whipping it out. But because the move has so little end lag, it's pretty safe to toss out if you're running off of a platform. And if your opponent decides to jump, hey, you get a free tech chase. If you have a stock lead on your opponent and see the opportunity, you can drag them into the bottom blast zone with you with a fast stall up air. Fast stall up air is coming to a close, so the last thing I have to say about it is that if your opponent likes jumping around in neutral, don't be afraid to call them out with this. I'll keep a mental note of what my opponent likes to do whenever I respawn, and if they really like jumping, I could just go for a fast stall up air tech chase. Alright, that's everything about fast stall up air until we get into jab locks. Now let's go into single hit up air. Wait, single hit up air? You mean this thing? Yes, I do mean that thing. If you manage to connect a single hit up air against an opponent that's on the platform, you can send them right up. And we do have enough frame advantage to follow up with things such as another up air or a forward air. Yeah, just those 10 seconds of audio was enough to sum it up. Alright, there's also last hit up air, which you pretty much never land, but you do get some combos off of. The final hitbox of Greninja's up air actually covers his torso and launches the opponent. There's a timing in order to get it, but it won't work against shorter characters, because they're short. This pretty much gives you as much frame advantage as first hit up air on a platform, so feel free to follow up. We're about to get into jab locks, which is what a ton of people think of whenever they think of Greninja. Surprisingly though, Greninja doesn't get as much off of jab locks as he gets off of dash locks. So let's go over the properties of jab locks real quick. If your opponent misses a tech, you have a 25 frame window in which you can hit them with a locking move. The 3 moves we have that can lock an opponent are jab, the first 2 hits of back air, and down air at early percents. But this isn't Smash 4, so we pretty much only rely on jabs for locking our opponent. We already talked about this, but after locking your opponent with a jab, you have a 20 frame window in which you can get a punish. The most common options that we go for out of a jab lock are a down tilt, dash attack, or F smash, depending on the scenario. Or if you're feeling ballsy and know what your opponent's going to do, you can go for a hard read. You can normally lock your opponent up to 2 times with a jab, but there are times where you only want to get the first jab. If your opponent's really close to the end of the stage whenever you lock them with the first jab, you probably just want to go for the punish instead of jab 2, as jab 2 can just knock them right off the stage. The best moves that we have to set up for jab locks are fast roll up air, obviously, back air, and F tilt. And also up smash, which sends down. Why? And yeah, that's pretty much all about jab locks. Alright, now let's get into dash locks. Ooh, how fancy, right? So way back in 2018, this amazing, absolutely incredible guy rescues kittens from burning trees all the time. Absolutely amazing Greninja player that you should definitely follow on Twitter. But this guy named Appleocean discovered a new tech for Greninja that opened up a ton of doors called dash locking. So for about the next half hour, we're going to be going over a bunch of nerd stuff. Let's get to it. Throw back to like 30 seconds ago where I said that we have 20 advantage frames after getting a jab lock. Greninja's initial dash lasts for 14 frames. So if you lock your opponent for the first time, you have enough time to dash forward and then jab again to lock them for a second time. This can be used to push your opponent closer towards the blast zone so that you can get a kill against them earlier. The only two moves that we have that are fast enough to be performed out of a dash while locking our opponent are a jab and a down tilt. Or you could also push them forward and delay your dash attack. So essentially, you can do 2 dash lock jabs into a dash down tilt attack cancel back air and carry them across the stage. Wait a minute, Appleocean, I tried dash locking Marth and nothing happened. Why is that? Alright, this is the nerdy part of dash locking that I already made a video on, but for the clarity of the guide, I'll pretty much explain everything again. So whenever your opponent misses a tech, there's a chance that they'll land on their front or their back. This is determined by a bunch of factors such as their air time, how high they fell from, the move that you spiked them with, their percent, but we're pretty much going to consider it random. So certain characters have different heights on their hurt box whenever they miss a tech. And if they're too low to the ground, the jab after the dash will lift. Some characters are able to be dash locked from either side, some are able to be dash locked from one side, and some are completely immune to dash locks altogether. Oh my god, how do I know which character I could dash lock? Well, Appleocean came through. Check out the document linked in the description to see who you can dash lock. Quick disclaimer, I know that in the document it says front head, front feet, back head, back feet. Memorize front head and back feet instead of front feet, back head. Those are the 2 most common ways to dash lock. But if you do want to learn more about it, linked in the description is going to be the original video I made. Alright, why does the document also say pop up? Whenever certain characters miss a tech, they'll pop up depending on if they landed on their front, or their back, or either or in cases such as Peach. Against these characters, it is still possible to lock them with a jab, but you have to have good timing or else it'll whiff. Also, I would not recommend going for a dash forward jab to cover those 3 tech options because if they pop up, you won't push them and they'll just end up behind you. So if you are trying to cover those 2 tech options, which are tech in place and tech away, go for a dash forward down tilt instead. Sweet, what else can we do out of a dash lock? If you push your opponent off a platform or off stage while they're in the locked state, they'll enter a state known as Pratfall. This lasts for universally 26 frames against every character, and the only option that they have out of Pratfall is teching against the ground. So if you lock your opponent on a platform, you might be able to get away with this. After jab locking them on a platform, push them off, and if you expect them to miss a tech, go for a second jab lock. From here, you might have more punishes available that you can put in your Greninja montage. You can also get confirms off of Pratfall that you wouldn't normally be able to get out of a dash lock. So if you get a dash lock on stage, you can push your opponent off into Pratfall and get a down tilt F smash and kill them pretty damn early. Alright, this is some more super sciencey stuff. If you push your opponent off stage, they are able to grab ledge out of Pratfall. This means that 26 frame advantage window from Pratfall that we had on platforms isn't there anymore. The amount of time that your opponent is stuck in Pratfall before they can grab the ledge is determined by their fall speed. So you might think that we're unable to get a dash forward down tilt F smash against another Greninja. Not true. It's completely dependent on your initial dash because remember, we are stuck in it for 14 frames before we can down tilt. So if you start your initial dash from right here, you're going to be stuck in it for longer than if you start it from over here. So if your opponent's right next to ledge, instead of doing a dash forward down tilt, you can walk a little bit, push them forward, and then go for the down tilt F smash. You can tilt out of a walk before you can tilt out of a dash, so this is something to keep in mind. And we also have even more stuff that we can get out of a Pratfall. Some of these options are super creative, so go ham, guys. Just to list a few, we've got up air, back air, grab, even footstool. Yes, you can footstool out of a Pratfall. Really go ham. I want to see some crazy stuff in your guys' Twitter feed. And that is pretty much everything about dash locks. Before we get into these crazy footstool combos that we can pull off, it's really important to have an understanding of down air, so let's go ahead and knock that out. The way that I recommend you think of down air is as an aerial dash attack. What the hell does aerial dash attack mean? Alright, stay with me here. If you hit down air, you get some really nice stuff going, but if you miss it, that's such an easy punish. So don't be Javier Lopez 2012 in bracket and spam down air 24/7. I'd actually argue that the biggest use of down air is for movement. Being above your opponent in ultimate isn't the best thing in the world, so you can use down air to go low really quickly. So if you're off stage and have a good distance between you and your opponent, you can down air from above this line. You see this line? Down air above it, please. And then from there you can recover low instead of high. Disclaimer, we are not Sonic. Don't use down air out of disadvantage and expect to be able to auto cancel from it. You need to be pretty much already touching the top blast zone in order to actually auto cancel down air, so it's not the best thing to use on stage. Alright, back to the above this line thing. Down air does have its uses off stage for edge guarding, but you'll SD unless you short hop and then down air. So remember this line. Do not down air below that line or you won't get a 0 to death on anyone but yourself. And after you follow all of those rules I just told you and do input that down air, remember that if you miss, you should probably hold the jump button so you can buffer a jump and actually get back to the stage. A rule of thumb for using down air. Don't use it pretty much ever if your opponent is below 70% because you get nothing off of it. After landing the down air, Greninja enters a pop-up animation where he can act out for a while. So until later percents, you're not really going to be able to get anything off of down air. This pop-up animation is useful though if you connect the down air on your opponent's shield. After hitting a down air on their shield, choose a direction and hold in that direction. Do not let go of your controller or anything, because if you hold in a direction, down air is safe on shield. You have enough time after this down air pop-up animation to double jump away or air dodge and get away scot-free. Alright, now let's go over what we can actually get off of down air. Down air has two hitboxes, a sweet spot and a sour spot. The sweet spot hitbox is only active for 3 frames, so don't expect to be an MLG, crazy, FaZe Clan, Optic Gaming, Cloud9, whatever. You're not going to get a spike from way up here. The move does have 2-framing potential, but the keyword there is potential. I went through so many VODs looking for a 2-frame with down air and could not find a single one. The main usage for the spike hitbox, I'd say, is on regrab. So if you notice that your opponent regrabs the ledge, go ahead and take it. That's a free spike. But try to get the timing down before you go for it, or you're just going to end up doing this. If you land a sweet spot down air on stage, grounded spikes are untechable in ultimate, so we do have guaranteed follow-ups. Depending on what you're interested in getting, after a spike down air, you can guarantee a forward air, back air, up air, or neutral air. Pretty much every aerial but another down air. Platforms can really extend what you can get off of a spike down air using, fast fall up airs or the first 2 hits of back air, but I'd say that the most common confirms to go for are a back air or a forward air. If your opponent's at just the right percent, after a sweet spot down air, you can get a sour spot nair into an up smash. And if they're a little too high for this to connect, you can get a sour spot nair into a forward air. Probably the best way to set up for a sweet spot down air is against an opponent that's in shield. Since your opponent sees you approaching with a short hop, they're probably expecting a nair to come out and either trying to parry it or perform an out of shield option against it. So how about we screw them over? Instead of going for a nair, input a down air right above their shield. If they drop their shield, that's a free sweet spot down air that you can use to follow up. And if they hold their shield, hey, this move's safe. But remember, don't go for it below like 20%, you're not going to get anything. Well, almost anything. Alright, super situational scenario right here. Sweet spot down air does have a chance to trip at early percents, but it's only like a 2% chance of happening. If you notice that you get a trip against your opponent from the sweet spot down air, fastball and hit them with a nair right after, and it will be guaranteed regardless of the option they choose. Again, you should not be tossing out down air this early, but it is something to look out for. Sweet, we knocked out the sweet spot. Now let's go into the sour spot. So the sour spot version of the down air is active for almost an entire half second. This actually makes it a really good lingering hitbox that you can use in order to edge guard. Please remember to short out first. If you hit your opponent with the sour spot down air, they'll go the opposite direction of which you hit them. So all of that left, right, left shenanigans. There is a bit of hit stun between both Greninja and the opponent before your opponent gets launched, so try reacting to the side you hit them in that period. If your opponent gets launched in front of you after the sour spot down air, you can go for a forward air, but if they get launched behind you, you can go for a back air. And just like the Sweetspot Down Air, you can follow up with a Sourspot Down Air into a forward air for a kill. The timing for this is super tight though, so you might just want to get the forward air. You can also potentially get a fast solo up air out of the Sourspot Down Air if your opponent chooses the laggy option. This is more of a call out than a confirm, so you want to wait a bit after the Sourspot Down Air and then input the fast solo up air. Alright, let's get into some really interesting tech using Down Air. Remember how I said that we get stuck in the pop-up animation after hitting a Down Air and it really limits the confirms that we can get? If you trade with Down Air, you'll actually exit the pop-up animation immediately. And from here, we have some crazy confirms that we can get. We call this tech Down Air canceling, and you can do it really well against multi-hit moves. Let's combine this with using Down Air as a mix-up on our opponent's shield. If our opponent likes tossing out multi-hit out of shield options, you can set up a Down Air cancel against that instead of going for a Nair. It works best as out of shield options against Bowser's Up B, Apollo Tennis Nair, Ivysaur's Nair, anything that has a multi-hit really. And then Dacus! Down Air cancel up smash, that's a confirm.
Let's go! Clip it, clip it, clip it.
You can also use the Sourspot Down Air to do this off stage against multi-hitting recovery moves. And because we haven't found the tech to do an up smash off stage yet, you can go for a Shadow Snake right after the Down Air cancel and get a kill. Alright, I'm pretty sure that's everything. Now let's get into Footstools and throw back to Smash 4.
Yes, they do still exist. Footstools were not removed in Smash Ultimate. They're not the same as in Smash 4 though, so let's go over the differences real quick. So I'm pretty sure that way back in Smash 4, Sakurai saw all of our tweets about our fancy Footstool combos that we're getting and said, you know what, that's enough, we're gonna make these techable in Ultimate. So a bunch of Greninja players, myself included, are really salty about this. Now instead of getting guaranteed follow-ups from Footstools, we get tech chases, which isn't as rewarding, but it's still something. Alright, this is a huge misconception about Footstools in Ultimate that I'm about to clear up for you. A lot of Smash players think that in order for a Footstool to connect, your opponent needs to be out of hit stun. And because you can buffer any option out of hit stun, this means that there are no guaranteed combos that lead into a Footstool. This isn't actually true. There is a secret tech to combo into a Footstool. The tech is hold in. No, I'm just kidding, it's something else. But do hold in whenever you head bonk. There are moves that have a special property in Ultimate of being Footstool locked. And apparently nobody but myself has done the research on this. So here's the rundown. Anyone but the attacker can Footstool the recipient out of tumble. So if you're playing in a team battle or free-for-all, your friend can Footstool the opponent out of an up throw. However, the attacker is under a limitation here. Up throw is a move that's Footstool locked. So while your friend can Footstool the opponent out of up throw, you cannot. This is why we can see some crazy Ice Climber stuff. You know, like where Popo's up tilting and Nana's just footstooling the opponent over and over? Popo's the one that's putting the opponent into tumble, while Nana is the one that's footstooling. You can tell if a move is footstool locked if whenever you try to footstool your opponent out of tumble, you only get the double jump animation. So here are Greninja's non-footstool locked moves. Up air is an interesting case where you can only footstool your opponent out of it if they're sent upwards. So no fast fall up air footstools, unfortunately. There is also no tumble into footstool. Whenever your opponent hits the ground, they're technically in landing lag, which is footstoolable. A lot of people shoot me DMs saying that they have trouble getting, near footstool or fully charged water shuriken footstool to connect. Honestly, you just have to go into training mode and really practice these. If you need to take it from quarter speed to half to full speed, that's totally fine. Anything it takes to get used to it. Alright, let's go over the fancy things that we can get. Starting off with fully charged water shuriken. In Smash 4, we didn't have the movement options that are available to us in Ultimate, so we're going to be incorporating a lot of directional air dodges out of Footstool. If you land a fully charged water shuriken against your opponent, you can run up to them and footstool them. From here, air dodge down. This is a really tight window to tech in, so chances are that your opponent missed it and you can go for a jab lock. And then you can follow up with something such as a dash attack up smash. Against certain characters, air dodging downwards won't work, so you want to go for a diagonal air dodge. This only works at early percents really because at later percents, the water shuriken sends too far in order to footstool. Alright, remember how I said that dare is really important to understand before we get into footstools? This is why. Whenever you get a grounded footstool against any character in the game, there isn't enough lag for Greninja to get a guaranteed down air. Unfortunately, even if we are frame perfect, we can only manage to get the spike hitbox of Down Air to connect. Alright, here's a few notes about grounded footstools. You usually set these up from the air. If you try to get a grounded footstool from the ground, the collision boxes in Ultimate make it really tricky to do. The game almost never allows you to be inside of someone. Whoa, pause on that real quick. But this makes it to where you can't immediately footstool an opponent like in Smash 4. Notice how I said you can almost never be inside of an opponent. If the opponent is landing on top of you, you're technically inside of them for a split second and then you can footstool out of that. This is why setups such as no tumble fair footstool work. And unironically, Greninja's fastest out of shield option is also his most technical. If your opponent lands on you with a poorly spaced aerial, you can do a frame 4 footstool out of shield into a down air to punish them. It's super tight to get and really punishable if you miss, but take it or leave it, the next best thing is jab on frame 14. Notice how I said this only works against aerials. If your opponent does a grounded or special attack on your shield, they are technically still in the animation, which only gives you a phantom footstool. This means that for all of your hard work, the only reward that you get is this yellow circle. Congrats. Let's go over aerial footstool into down air. Number 1 rule. Stop asking me for this chart on Twitter. Alright, so against these characters you can get a guaranteed down air after an aerial footstool. You can set this up with any non-locked move into a footstool. Even if the opponent isn't on this list, you can still go for it since they have to react to the footstool and DI properly. But don't come crying to me whenever you SD at 0. Alright, let's go over 2 special cases, Snake and K-Rool. These are the only 2 characters that cannot DI out of aerial footstool into down air. Remember when I told you what moves aren't footstool locked? Down air is one of those. So you can loop these cycles over and over into each other. If you're doing this against Snake below 70%, you want to fast roll after the first down air connect so that way you can footstool him before he's out of hit stun. And after this, you don't have to fast roll anymore, so you can just do footstool down air, footstool down air, footstool down air. A lot of people think that this is essentially a 50-50 and Greninja has to guess which way the opponent's going to DI to follow up, but there's enough hit stun between both Greninja and the opponent for you to react and follow up in that direction. Also, you do lose height after each footstool that you perform. If you manage to get 4 footstools in a row without touching the ground, you can combo into any aerial from that 4th footstool. If you notice that your opponent tries DIing out of this combo, you can go for a forward air and kill them on their bad DI. Alright, here are a few combos that you can use to set up for an aerial footstool down air. So I also said that down tilt, thigh hit of back air, and the third hit of back air are not footstool locked. As for down tilt, you don't necessarily want to go for a footstool down air because you get so many follow-ups anyways, and thigh back air is just not very consistent. As for the third hit of back air, you can go for a dash attack up smash, which gets you more reward than footstools. Alright, let's talk about a really weird scenario I came across when I was working on this video. Check out this interaction and tell me if you can see what's wrong. Spoiler alert, we got a grounded footstool from the air. I'm still not entirely sure as to why this happens, but if you footstool your opponent just before they touch the ground, you can force a grounded footstool. This can be useful because your opponent doesn't have a window to take the aerial footstool. The most consistent ways I found to set this up are from thigh hit back air, which is inconsistent in itself, and just some random platform stuff. Alright, to wrap it all up, we're going to finish with phantom footstools. I mentioned earlier that they're pretty much useless for comboing and you get 0 frame advantage off of them, but you do get invincibility. Gimmer made a video that went way in depth about this and you can check it out in the description. But essentially, if you don't have a double jump and are landing from disadvantage, you can just mash jump and buffer a phantom footstool in order to get around your opponent's aerials. This can also be really helpful for whenever we're recovering because we have a crazy high footstool. And before you ask, no, we cannot buffer a regular footstool. I wish. Alright, that's gonna do it for part 3. I'm really sorry that part 3 has been in the works for so long now, but the basic rundown of what happened was Dell screwed me, they broke my computer, but they did upgrade me to their newest, latest model. Fortunately, this means that I can totally record in 1080p 60 FPS just fine now. The time it takes to render my videos also went way down. I remember that on my old computer for part 2, it no joke took me like 20 hours to render that half-hour video, but on this computer it'll only take me maybe an hour and a half, which is incredible. So apart from making these high-quality videos for you guys, I can also actually stream now without my computer exploding. So if you want to catch me streaming on twitch.tv/Appleocean, the link's going to be in the description and that would be awesome. Also, at the time that I'm recording this video, I am at 993 subscribers. How the hell did that happen? I'm really trying to get this video out by the 22nd, but I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna hit 1,000 subscribers. I almost said 1,000,000. Hopefully not. That would be insane. But I'm probably gonna hit 1,000 subscribers by tomorrow. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm really thinking of doing a Q&A for 1K, and I think it would be really cool to interact with you guys that way. Alright, let's name a few questions that you cannot ask me. Number 1, don't ask for the Footstool Down Air chart. Number 2, don't ask when part 3 is coming out. Number 3, don't ask when part 4 is coming out either, because I honestly don't know. I really want to focus on movement in part 4, but it's such a hard topic that I don't really know how to address. Not to mention that it takes me 2 days to put together 10 minutes of editing. I'm also going to be pulling a bunch of questions from the latest episodes of the Greninja guide, since a lot of people are asking me things that I haven't had the chance to respond to yet. Questions like, are you German? Why do you know this German song? That's a surprise for next time. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next time with 1,000 subscribers. And yeah, take care. Have a great rest of your days.